in South Carolina, just as a little back information, once the property goes to the tax sale, usually you have a year and a day in order to redeem. It's called the redemption period to redeem a property. Well, unfortunately, one county several years ago, and I'm not even going to say their name to give them the air, started to circumvent that year and a day process and found a loophole in the law which allows them to restrict who can come and redeem it. So let's say the property is heirs property, and let's say the property is in my grandmother's name, right? Because I'm in my grandmother's house, so got her top of mind. If I want to go and pay the taxes, they won't take my payment from my name. They will only take payments from my grandmother. And in her case, she's 100 years old. So, that just screws up the ability for people to get that property back. And other counties are starting to do that same practice. And so, it's really starting to increase the amount of property loss that we're experiencing down here. And it's frustrating. It's just completely frustrating.
And what you're describing there, and that's horrible to hear, and I was not aware of this more recent move, but that just shows that these tax sales are not about local governments getting the revenue they need, because if that was the case, then they wouldn't care who came and paid that late tax bill. They're getting their money, but instead they're putting in place roadblocks that seem clearly designed to make it more difficult for these property owners to be able to redeem their property, keep it from being lost. And it suggests that maybe there's a vested interest on the part of these local governments in transferring that property into other people's hands. And one of the things that my book shows that this is, I think what you're describing right now is part of a long history of how local governments have manipulated tax sales to accelerate land loss, redevelopment, gentrification, and the like, and how these tools of local governance, the kind of administrative powers that officials might have, not just in sort of the policies themselves, but just how they carry them out, that can be a powerful force of in this case of undermining African American attempts to hold on to the property they have and utilize it to the best of their ability. So I think this is, again, I think what you're describing right now should send up alarm bells to everyone listening. And I'm glad that you mentioned that the upcoming tax sale and your work, your organization's work in trying to protect landowners, because that's another part that my book tells is the history of African American organizational efforts to counteract Black land loss on the these direct forms, whether it be going to tax sales and bidding against these outside investors, helping people get current on their taxes before it's too late. So my book is also really a history of these kinds of forms of structural racism and their effects, but also of resistance to it. And I'm really heartened to hear that you're part of that sort of longer history.